Why play Lulu Support? Well, she brings so much versatile utility. She's amazing at keeping her carry alive, she also brings great poke, and she's great early and scales well. However, she is very mana hungry, especially in the early game, and if you don't have a good carry, it can feel rough. Lulu's passive is she has her fairy with her. Whenever she attacks, her fairy also fires 3 bolts towards that enemy, which all deal damage. However, this can be blocked by other enemies or minions, and if the fairy is attached to someone else, it instead casts the ability from there. Lulu's Q is a straight line skill shot, which both her and her fairy fire off. Enemies hit by this take damage under slowed, and they take 50% damage from the second bolt. Lulu's W can be cast on an ally or an enemy. When used on an ally, it grants them a large amount of attack speed and movement speed. When used on an enemy, it polymorphs them into a bunny, where their move speed is greatly reduced and they're disarmed. Lulu's E can also be used on an ally or an enemy. When used on an ally, it sends her fairy to that champion and grants them a shield. And because your fairy's on that champion, they then gain the passive. When used on an enemy, you send your fairy to them, dealing damage and revealing them. And as your fairy's on them, your fairy's passive will now hit straight into them, and it makes things like your Q much easier to land. Lulu's ultimate can be used on herself or an ally. When used, it enlarges the champion, granting them a large amount of bonus health, increasing their size and knocking up nearby enemies. While enlarged, you have a large circle around you which also slows nearby enemies. For combos, for the most part, you're putting your E and W on your carry and then ult them when an enemy gets too close, using Q to slow down anyone coming towards them or trying to get away. However, when by yourself, attack into E and Q before attacking away, using W on yourself for the buff or to bunny them. For matchups, she is great into champs that want to get onto you as she just brings too much peel and sustain, and she can struggle into champs that will sit out of her range bullying her. For runes, take this, Eri makes everything you do better. For build order, start World Atlas and Pot into a battle song and tier 2 boots. After this, an Ardent Censer and Moonstone are great pickups before finishing a build with any of these as needed. For skill order, start E then Q then W before maxing E then W then Q, taking ult whenever you can. For summoner spells, take Flash and Heal. For synergies, she is great with hyper carries, making their late game even better. Starting the game, you play in different ways depending on what you're up against, but your main focus will always be on poking and harassing your opponent, taking good trades, and allowing your carry to farm. With your passive being great damage, and your E being a point and click ability, you have access to tons of damage. Firstly, if they're not behind minions, your auto attacks simply hit like a truck, and between this and your Q, you can be incredibly annoying. Also, if your carry's ever in trouble, you have tons of tools to help them. Your shield and speed up will allow them to kite, with your Q slowing enemies, or if an enemy jumps in, simply turn them into a bunny so they have no additional follow-up. And when you hit level 6, your carry basically becomes unkillable. Entering the mid game, take your tower and rotate mid. This just puts you in the center of the map to easily roam to fights and objectives. Entering late game team fights, you want to play as the backline support, allowing your carry to thrive. Being able to shield, speed up, and buff your carry using ult to give them extra health and a slow area makes them impossible to kill. Also, if the enemy team has good engage, turn their engage into a bunny. And that's how to play Lulu Support. If this video helped you, leave it a like and comment below which champion you want to see next.